Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are watching this video, I'm going to be talking about how I plan my trips around Korea. One thing I love to do, especially I think because of Corona and because we can't really travel abroad, I found a new appreciation for finding like odd places in Korea to travel to. I mean, I've gone to the really popular places like Busan and Seoul, but I really love finding kind of obscure or not as popular places to travel. And so I've gotten a couple of questions. They say we shouldn't say. A lot of people have asked me. I've gotten a couple of questions about how I plan my trips. One of the questions was like, do you enjoy traveling solo, or are you traveling solo because people are not willing to? And so I'm gonna answer all of those things in today's video. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Kutlano. I'm from South Africa and I am a teacher here in South Korea. And for those of you who do know who I am and are returning subscribers, hey, what's up? Okay, so I'm gonna hop straight into the video. It might not be completely in order, but this is generally how I go about planning my trips, like more or less like this. The steps are all there when I plan, but the order might change depending on the situation. If you're not familiar with my travels and don't know why I'm making this video, then I suggest you check my Instagram feed. I post a lot of my pictures from my travels on my Instagram feed and also my Insta stories. You can either follow me and watch them like real time or you can check out my highlights. I have highlights organized by kind of province or city depending on the area that you can check out, and I try to make very detailed stories so you can figure out some cool spots to go to or save for later. Okay, so let's get into it. Number one, the first thing I do usually is pick a travel partner or decide on a travel partner. I really enjoy traveling alone, but that's just my personality. I would say I recommend that everyone travels alone just once, like just to see if you're into it or not. But it's really cool for getting to like spend time with yourself, especially not like in your house, because it's very easy to distract yourself in your house. But like to go somewhere with yourself is like a really good way to get to know yourself, so I recommend doing it at least once. My personality is just that I really enjoy traveling alone. Like I love traveling with other people, don't get me wrong, but majority of the time I do travel alone because I enjoy it. But I do travel with other people sometimes. Sometimes it's me and one person, sometimes it's me and a group of friends who are going together, or sometimes it's me alone going to travel with a group of people that I either kind of know or don't know at all. So it really depends on the situation. So I would say that's really important to figure out first. Once you figure that out, if you are going with a group of people that you know, like you are particularly planning a trip with people that you know, I advise thinking about, like, before you choose the people or in the process of choosing the people, think about your travel personalities. I know they say with friendships and relationships that opposites attract, but with travel, I think that statement is a little bit iffy, because I think when you travel with someone, compatibility is really important. Usually when you travel, you're going somewhere you wouldn't usually go for a very limited amount of time, and so you and this person need to be in agreement of how you're going to spend that time in order for you to feel satisfied with the trip. So I think that's very important. There's a lot of factors that go into determining either your own travel personality or someone else's, but I do suggest that you have very similar travel personalities. If you would like me to make a video that goes into detail about travel personalities, I mean, I could talk about it now, but this video would be very long. But if you'd like me to make a video about what goes into travel personalities and what that means and like all of the aspects you need to think about in detail about that, then please leave a comment down below. I will make it. I mean, it's stuff like, for example, your one friend, you are both very adventurous but one less than the other, which is fine sometimes because then the most adventurous encourages the other one to do something. But like if this friend constantly wants to throw themselves off of something or dive into something and you are just like, you know what, I just want to run around, you know, it can be a situation. So I'll make a video about stuff like that, luxury travel, solo travel. I'll going into detail about all of those things. If you have any requests, leave them in the comments down below and I'll make that video. So on top of personalities, if you are in a different country, then you also need to consider, are you traveling with foreigners or with locals? You don't really need to make a decision about that, but just in the situation that you're traveling with foreigners and locals, you tend to have different perspectives on a place. You know, it affects things like what kind of activities are you doing, what kind of areas are you going. You know, locals would know more hidden gems. I mean, you can also, I'm gonna kind of tell you how to travel like a local. So foreigners can also know a lot of hidden gems, but you know, sometimes we would tend to stick to more touristy things, or sometimes we're not as adventurous with foods and stuff like that. So you need to think about, are you going with foreigners, are you going with locals? How does that impact your trip? You need it, because it does a little bit. It's different if like the locals are gonna match you or you're gonna match the locals, which is again a personality thing. But yeah, you need to think about that as well, just saying. For example, when I went to Daegu, I went to meet my friend Taewon. He lives in Daegu already, so I was the one who was doing the traveling to there, but it was just a day trip. And for example, I planned the itinerary. I actually had a place I wanted to go, and I planned it fairly well. I think it was like a really good day trip. I still really want to do it, but for the day that it wouldn't have worked out. So he was able to tell me that if I tried to do it on my own, I may have had some regrets. Like looking back at it, I may have had some regrets about doing it at the time that I wanted to do it. But it's still a trip I want to do. But like, because he's a local, he was able to be like, you know what, let's not do that, let's do this instead, and you can do that another time for this and this reason. But like, he was spot on. Like, it was a good decision. Things like that, like a local will have like little, I can't think of anything but the Korean term, cool tips, hacks. Okay, travel hacks, I guess. For example, when my other friends and I went to Chuncheon, yeah, it was, yeah, we needed a local to be like, no, not like this. So yeah, just think about stuff like that. And then, like I mentioned before, we did a day trip to Daegu, so the next step would be deciding the duration. How much time do you have? With the time that you do have, how much of the time do you want to spend in this particular place? Are you gonna stay in one place, or are you gonna move after like a couple of days? You need to think about that as well, because that impacts, once again, transportation. It impacts accommodation. So for example, I went to Daegu on a day trip, and so I had to be like, okay, I'm going to take the bus, because I think that weekend there was just an issue with me having taken a train. So like, it impacted, the fact that it was a day trip kind of impacted that decision. Whereas when I went to Chuncheon and Gapyeong with my friends, that vlog, I'll put that vlog up here. When we went there one way and came back a different way because it was Chuseok weekend. So for some reason we could go from Cheongju directly to Chuncheon, but when we left we couldn't, and we had to go to Gapyeong and then to Daejeon and then to Cheongju. Once again, it wasn't a perfect trip, but this is the point I'm getting at, is you need to decide the duration. And then also the duration would then kind of determine your itinerary, right? It determines how much time you have to do certain things, and also kind of determines the pace of your like vacation, I guess. Will you be jam-packed on all the days, or on this day we're gonna take it easy, on this day it's gonna be jam-packed, you know, on this day we're gonna focus on this area, on this day whatever. So I know a lot of people, this is now step 3 and 4 kind of, it's like a two-parter that's just like interchangeable. You see what I did there? I'm joking. Yeah, then I know some people don't believe in itineraries. Like some people, like they can't make them or follow them or stick to them, and they're very like, I'll go where the wind takes me. I'm generally a very easygoing person, but if I'm traveling, I need to know what's happening. Like I can't just show up in an area and be like, okay, now what? Like, I need to have gone there for a reason, and I like to know the reason I'm going there. Also, like, I need to mentally prepare, and like when I pack, I need to know what to pack and stuff like that. Like, are we gonna throw ourselves off of something at some point? I need to know. Are we gonna go kayaking? I need to know. Are we just gonna go to pretty cafes the whole time? I need to know. Like, what shoes am I packing? Like, you know what I mean? So your itinerary, to me at least, I'm gonna speak from my point of view for this two-parter, is very important. So when I make my itinerary, there's two parts, like I said. The first one, I'll say part, what is this, 3.1-ish 3.1-ish is decide where you want to go, like the places that you want to go, what you want to see, where you want to eat, what activities you want to do at which location, which museum, which whatever it is. Okay, how do you find these places, especially in a foreign country, or just even in your own country? Like, maybe you want to go somewhere non-typical, like maybe you're in Cape Town and you don't want to go to Lion's Head, or you don't want to go to Table Mountain. Where should you go? How do you find these places? So I'm going to speak from a context of being in Korea, how I do it. This should help if you're abroad as well. How do you find these? Instagram and maps. Instagram and maps are your best friends. Okay, so you could go the route of Googling. Once again, I'm speaking from a Korean context of being in Korea, I mean. You can Google what to do in Deng Deng, or what to do in here and here, but you are very likely going to get your TripAdvisor, your, what is it, Lonely Planet, your, you know, these are all good sources to know like the popular tourist destinations, but you're not going to get like your local hidden gems or your local hotspots by doing that. You're going to get your tourist attractions that everyone goes to, like I can't think of something right now, but like you go to Busan and you go to Busan Tower. You know, everyone does it when they go to Busan. Okay, not everyone, but you know what I mean. Like, go to Seoul, go to Namsan Tower type of thing. Whereas you could go to I forgot the name of it, but there's this other cool village. It's kind of like Amcheon village, but not. I don't remember what the name is, you know what I mean? So how do you find those places? So if you do Google what to do in whatever, or you Google the name of a place, add blog to the end. I love going through blogs and reading bloggers' entries and stuff like that, because bloggers also tend to go to places that are not as common, because they need their blog to stick out from the next one, right? More particularly, I would say, if you're going to use a search engine, if you're in Korea, instead of using Google, use Naver. If whatever country you're in has a local, like a country specific search engine, search there and search in that country's language. I promise you the options are just like so much more, and so much more interesting and obscure, kind of, almost. You can just find a lot of really cool places you never would have thought to go to. So instead of searching Daegu travel, you search Daegu 여행 on Naver, and then you can find some really cool places too. The other thing I like to do is I like to search on Instagram. I like to search hashtags, not necessarily locations. Like, I'll usually only search to locations if I know a specific place, because it's a bit hard to just kind of type in something and then a location pops up. So if you search hashtags, particularly in Korea, it'll be like Daegu Cafe, Daegu 여행, Daegu travel, Daegu 맛집, Daegu restaurants, and then you can find that. If you know a specific neighborhood or something, like for example in Cheongju, I live in Yuliangdong, then you can type Yuliangdong Cafe, Yuliangdong 여행, Yuliangdong 맛집, and you can find like all of the cool places you can do. Also, another cool tip, going back to Naver, you can, if you're going to an area where you think there's not a lot to do, you can search something like 대구에서 가볼 만한 곳. I'll put it up here somewhere or down here somewhere. 대구에서 가볼 만한 곳, or something like that. You can put that into Instagram or Naver, and then you'll find places that you can actually really explore in that area that are not that well known, maybe. That's my recommendation. Search local, search like a local, or search local content to find really cool places to go that you would not have thought of going to before. Then 3.2-ish, because once again they're interchangeable. Once you have found these places that you want to go, map them out. So Google Maps doesn't really work in Korea, so I do this on Naver Maps, but it has a really cool function where you can save the location on the map. I'm not sure about Google because I never did this in South Africa, but on Naver Maps you can save the location, and so then I will save it and look at it on the map, and then you need to figure out the routes that you're gonna take. Like, I'm gonna start here and go up, or start here and go down, or I'm gonna stay in this area because there's a lot more that I want to do here than here, or if I do have time I'll go like here. And you can check how you're able to get to those areas. I advise checking beforehand how you're going to get around, because you need to know if there are buses or trains that you can take if you don't have a car, because Korea has a really good transportation system, but holiday wise, like vacation wise, sometimes you really do need a car, like you know, to go to the places that you want to go. Otherwise you're like gonna stick to your like second choices, backup options. This is another thing. When you save places you want to go, I suggest looking extra. If you feel like you found, okay, we're going to a restaurant, a museum, and a cafe today, save extra cafes, save extra restaurants, and maybe in case that museum doesn't work out, save like a gallery or something that's in the area, so that if one is closed or has some kind of weird circumstance, you have somewhere else to go and you don't feel kind of stuck. Just a recommendation. And also sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have enough time, but you have time to do something else that's closer, or you know, or you go to a cafe and it's really crowded, so you're like, let's go somewhere else. Pro tip. So yeah, I would just say that about mapping it out. I think it's really important to map it out. Another cool way to find places: follow tourism accounts, follow content creators, follow, you know, travel bloggers, travel vloggers, just Instagram content creators who travel to lots of different places to film their content, or shoot their pictures of their content. Do that, and then have, like I have on my Instagram, you have the saved function. In the saved function you can make folders, and then I save like according to areas. So I have a folder for Jeju, a folder for Busan, a folder for Cheongju where I live, you know, and every time I see something cool I can save it. And then when I'm like, oh, where should I go this weekend, I kind of just flip through the folders and I'm like, Pohang, okay, and then I open and I see a bunch of stuff that I've saved, and then I start from that point and then search for more. Cool tip. Cool, I keep saying cool tip, like travel hack. How would you do this from 3.2-ish to 3.1-ish? I'm joking. Some people choose an area. Like if I say I'm going to Seoul, I'll be like, I'm going to Hongdae, and then they find places in Hongdae first, as opposed to being like, what are all the cool places in Seoul, and then picking an area after that. So that's kind of how you would switch that around. But yeah, that just goes by your personality or the situation or whatever the case is. Like if I say I want to go to Gangnam this weekend, then I would search Gangnam Cafe instead of Seoul Cafe. Yeah. Then step number, I think we're on 4. Okay, step number 4 would then be, this is kind of you do while you're doing step number 3. All of this is kind of interlinked. Write down your itinerary as you go. If you're this kind of person, I know not everyone is this person, but I like to have it written down. So you can do this through, I've seen people do it through memos on their phone, and you just kind of have the names listed of the places you want to go. I love to plan. Like I love this part. So I have a Google Doc, which is a bit of a problem if you don't have good internet, but there's internet everywhere here in Korea, so I can open it at any time. I have a Google Doc where I put like the accommodation, the details I need to know, check-in times, cost, if there's a deposit that I need to pay, if when I can cancel buy for free. I put all of that under accommodation. Transportation, do I need to take a taxi from my house? If I need to catch a bus, which bus am I catching at what time? How much does the transport cost? Is it a return trip? Which station am I going to? Stuff like that. List that under travel. Then I will have food. I think if that area is really famous for a certain type of food, which tends to be in Korea, they have a lot of tuksan. They call it tuksan, which is tuksan. Oh, my pronunciation is off today, but it's basically like special to that region, like a specialty or a delicacy to that region. Then I will list that under food, of like foods that I have to try while I'm in that area. And then I usually include pictures just because I like the visual, you know. And then next would be itinerary, I think. Then I would put down all the places I want to go in more or less the order I want to go in, based on how I now mapped it out on Naver, so that I also know and I don't get stuck like, oh yeah, where was this place? I know kind of the order I want to do these things in. And then I will write like anything like must take a picture at this place, or must do this thing, or must order at this thing. I'll make notes like that as well. And then also, just if like for example with my Daegu trip, I wanted to do one trip, but then after speaking to my friend, we changed it up and we were like, okay, no, we're gonna do this instead. I also have kind of like later, it's just labeled later in this whole document, because I put all of my trips there and then I delete them after I finish the trip. This is like places in that area I want to go later, or I saw it on Instagram and it looked really cool, but we're not gonna have time. Then I put it in later. Then the next time I'm like, hey, I want to go to Daegu, I'll start from the start point of the previous itinerary that I was planning to do later, and I'll be like, oh okay, I didn't get to do this last time, I can do it this time. So yeah, that's just kind of what I do. You don't need to have, like, I don't print it or anything. You don't need to have an itinerary and check everything. Part of traveling is being flexible and being like, I have this amount of time, I have this factor, this and this factor, I need to catch this bus at this time. So you might not be able to do everything or follow the itinerary to a T, but for me it's more like a guideline. Like more like an idea of like how I want my day to go. And yeah, I don't know, that's just me. This is how I do it. This is why I'm making this video. It's my method. You don't need to go all out with a Google Doc. I just really like Google Docs and Excel spreadsheets. It's just a personality thing. But yeah, you can literally just save the stuff on Instagram and then like look at the picture and be like, let's go here, or like screenshot or whatever. I don't know, up to you. After you have decided everything, it's time to book your accommodation and your transportation. Do this in advance. Airbnbs in Korea tend to be really expensive, but like the good ones go first, and then it's really just difficult to find Airbnbs last minute here. It's not like, I think it's a lot easier in other parts of the world to find things last minute here, but even trains, like usually on a normal weekend you can get a train fairly easily, but if it's like Chuseok, you need to book that train like a week in not even a week, like a month in advance. Like, you know, if it's a special weekend or something, Koreans take that very seriously. So if you're in a country where the locals take those kind of holidays very seriously, book way more in advance than you think you need to. The second it's possible, book. Like we try to book a Chuseok trip to Jeju. We tried to book like 2 months in advance and the flights were sold out 2 months in advance for a local trip, like a domestic trip. So yeah, book in advance. Book all your accommodation and your transportation. Take note of when you need to be there, if there are fees for like holding your luggage there, or early check-ins. If you need to tell the owner of the Airbnb or booking.com hotel or Hotel Trivago, whatever the case is, anything special, you know, then just take note of all of that. That's step number 5. And then step number 6 is to just travel and have a good time. Enjoy, have a good time, take it all in, be open-minded to new things and like new cultures, new experiences, new foods. Don't just like, I don't know, go all the way to Jeonju and then eat Burger King. Like, the only time you're ever gonna be in Jeonju in your life, eat Burger King. Like, go have some bibimbap and some tteokgalbi. Like, you know what I mean? Be open-minded. I mean, if you don't like it or you're allergic or whatever, then there's, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. But I feel like for me, traveling is going there and experiencing the place as authentically as possible. When I go to Pohang, I'm gonna go and get that jimpang. It's like steamed buns with pat inside, red beans. I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna get some patjuk, which is like red bean porridge, and I'm gonna dip and eat it, because the rest of Korea doesn't eat it like that. Like, I was talking to one of my colleagues and I didn't know she's from Pohang, and she was like, have you had you know, jimpang and patjuk? And I was like, yeah, I had it. I dipped the bread in the porridge. And she was like, how did you know to do that? And I was like, no, I had it in Pohang. And she's like, that's my hometown. And she was so impressed, you know. And that's it for me. It's like the local experience. Be open to new things, you know. Go like make a hwamun sok. I made a hwamun sok in Gangwado. I had no idea what a hwamun sok is, but I made one. It's a Korean traditional mat, and learned the history behind it. It's pretty cool. I never would have done that on my own, like been like, yeah, let me just go do that for fun. You know. But I went on a tour. Oh, this is another thing, you know, book tours or go on your own. I don't think that's really important. It's just up to your taste, because it's an experience regardless. But be open to doing things. And then the last one, the most important one, is traveling is actually exhausting. No one really talks about how exhausting traveling is. I think traveling is very glamorized. It's exhausting, and it's not always perfect, and things can go wrong. You can lose your purse on the bus, you can lose your phone in the taxi. Like, you know, it's not always going to be a perfect trip, so make time to rest. Don't be like me and then travel until really late on a Sunday and have to go to work at 8 in the morning on a Monday. It's hard. Or if you're gonna do that, make sure you have time to rest after work on Monday. Just give yourself time to rest, because traveling can actually be exhausting. Even if you're relaxing most of the time, the actual traveling can be tiring. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. Don't feel pressured by other people who travel in a certain way or beyond your means. And just have a good time and keep it chill and experience things, experience life. This is why we do this. But yeah, if you like this video, leave a comment, like it, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you know when I'm posting. If you have any queries about travel related stuff, like your travel personalities, what to pack, all of those things, budgeting and all of that, please leave any requests for videos like that in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.